Hello everyone, this is Spaz from FLT Airsoft, here today to show you a preview of the Black Talon Concepts Chimera. It's the new AEG MOSFET unit, brought to you by the same person that brought you the AWS Stealth and Raptor MOSFETs. First off, the things that you get in your box, this is your box that your product gets shipped in, is your installation manual, the main control unit, the trigger board, the extended cutoff lever spring, wire leads with both Tamiya and Dean's connectors installed, motor lead connectors, and 2 ribbon cables that go from your trigger board to your main MOSFET control unit. Some of the features that this unit comes with and specifications and stuff is the supply voltage is 6.5 to 18 volts, current rating of 450 amps peak and 60 amps continuous, fully computer controlled, 2N dual FET design, can withstand 9,000 watt power surges, less than 0.001 ohms resistance, and an extremely low idle current. Controller features, MOSFET switching, obviously we're buying a MOSFET. Dynamic braking or active braking, burst fire modes, burst auto hybrid, semi-auto only mode, adjustable precocking, adjustable rate of fire, LiPo and life monitoring. Gearbox improvements says it prevents trigger jams and reduces cycle jams, which means when the gearbox gets in just that perfect position and you've had a well-used cutoff lever and trigger assembly, sometimes gearboxes will lock up and you have to switch them to full auto to get them to be able to shoot, and you're good to go again. It says the anti-reversal latch is no longer needed. With active braking or dynamic braking programmed at the perfect amount and you get that perfect cycle every time, it might not be needed. But there's no real reason not to put the anti-reversal latch in the gearbox and let it run the way it's supposed to anyways. I find no need not to have an anti-reversal latch in the gun, and if you're not using the dynamic braking or active braking, then you're going to want to have to use it in case there's any type of overspin in your gearbox, so you don't have double feeds in semi-auto. Circuit protections are overcurrent cutoff, low voltage cutoff, temperature monitoring, and a water resistant coating. That way if you're playing out in the rain or you accidentally spill water on it or you spill some other sort of fluid on it, you don't have to worry about that your fet's going to be ruined. It's got that coating to help it resist the moisture. And you'll always get those people that are like, well, what if I run it in water? Well, we've all seen people dip whole guns inside the water, pull them out, let them drain out for a second, and then go ahead and shoot them. So we're not worried about that. At least I'm not worried about that. But we'll go ahead and talk about some of the features now. Oh, hold on. We'll show you a size comparison real quick. This is the Chimera and my Extreme Fire Cheetah and a AA battery. As you can see, they're all pretty close to being the same exact size, which means anywhere you can stick a AA battery, you can stick this FET. It's not a big FET. It's nice and small. It'll fit in pretty much any buffer tube, any handguard, anything you got that you're running where you want to run this. You should be able to fit it anywhere without a problem. Oh, almost put the wrong one over there. Some of the features that you have, and there's a lot, is one of the neat things that they did for this one is you can control full auto and semi-auto completely independent of each other. You're not picking a firing mode that has both semi-auto's features and full auto's features already picked out. You get to pick out your semi-auto and full auto functions individually. So, I mean, if you wanted full auto mode in semi-auto, you could have full auto and semi-auto and full auto. Or the bursts or the burst hybrid or anything you wanted, you could have it. You know, you could run full auto in both modes. You could run semi-auto in both modes. You can run 2-round burst in semi and 3-round burst in full, or vice versa. You know, whatever you wanted to do. Also, with the rate of fire, you can have like max rate of fire in semi-auto mode, and then a more realistic 15 round a second full auto mode, and still have your really high speed setup so you can get your fast as possible semi-auto trigger pulls and your motorcycles at full rate. Or, you know, your full auto mode is cycling down slower, so you have a more realistic rate of fire. It has 2 modes that it does that. It has a PWM mode, which controls the amount of voltage that goes to the motor, and, you know, gives it a certain percentage of power that goes to the motor, and whether it makes it slower or faster. And the adaptive rate of fire uses the cutoff lever switch right here to count every round that goes through it, and pauses in between each shot fired so that it gives you an exact round count. And the round counts that they have listed are 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 round. So it pretty much goes up in 5-round increments in between 10 and 30 rounds. You can also adjust your pre-cocking by percentage, 20, 40, 60, or 80%, individually for semi-auto or full auto. The dynamic braking, active braking can either be disabled, have light braking, medium braking, or maximum braking. Of course, it has the LiPo monitoring. 2-cell, 3-cell, or 4-cell LiPoly with 3-cell or 4-cell LiPo, or you can have it disabled if you're running the NiCad nickel metal batteries. Of course, it's not true cell-to-cell LiPo monitoring, because it's monitoring it over your battery lead cables, and it averages it out. So if you have one cell that's dipping low, it's always recommended that you get a cell-to-cell LiPo monitor, but this does add some level of protection so that if your battery does start getting low, you can try and pull it before you do blow something up, and hopefully everything works out right still. I think that's about it. There's other it's got a features and troubleshooting guide, and the programming is pretty straightforward. The way it's put together is very high quality. It's nice, thick heat shrink tubing. Nothing pokes through. There's no risk. I don't see any risk of actually. I don't see any risk of what's it called? Any risk of any of the stuff poking through. Although some of the pins for these connectors stick up pretty high on the board, and it's a possibility that they might poke through the heat shrink tubing if they're pushed on or jostled or rubbed against over time, but not immediately. It's definitely a more user-friendly design, although it may take you more time to install than the AWS Raptor. But it has your data ports. It's a 2-pin and a 3-pin, so there's no way to get them confused. That run, and they're really thin, so you can run them either inside or outside the gearbox. Everything's done by screw terminals or plugs, so if you break one of the data port cable wires, or you chew up a battery wire or a motor lead wire inside the gun, then it's really easy to replace. You know, the wires are 18 gauge. 18 gauge American wire gauge wire, but the unit will take a 16 gauge wire as long as you make sure to twist the wires nice and tight. I use a 16 gauge Dean's noodle wire when I installed the Chimera inside my little CQB M4, which I'll show in the next video, because I'm going to do a programming and test fire so you guys can see what it does. The selector plate has to be modified just like the AWS Raptor. That's about it. I mean, this is how it comes. It's a very solid unit. Mine performed very, very well. Minor modifications might actually be needed to made to the trigger board to get it properly fit inside of a mech box. Inside my Haynes gearbox, I had the file down right here and right here. This part was touching the cutoff lever, and this part here was tight inside the gearbox, in between the gearbox body shell over here and the trigger trolley post on this side. So I did a little light file right here, and it took me less than 5 minutes to take care of both pieces, and it fit right into place without any problems after that. I've ran probably 3,000 or 4,000 rounds through the unit, mostly in semi-auto mode. I've done some full auto, but mostly in semi-auto mode, and I haven't had any problems that I could actually contribute to the FET itself. So I will go ahead and end this now. Thank you guys for watching. Look forward in the next day or two for the programming and firing modes, selections, and stuff like that in the next video. Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye.